Hello, amazing people. It is time for another hot lap. Buckle up, get your helmet, and let's go for a ride. This weekend, I've decided to treat myself to a little fantastic spa weekend getaway. I stayed in my living room, however, and just watched people drive as fast as they could around a track in Belgium for hours. We're going to take a look at the World Endurance Championship that took place around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. We're going to look into the NASCAR race that took place in Darlington and the F1 news after the Miami Grand Prix to prepare for leg one of the Italian Grand Prix. Let's get started with the World Endurance Championship today. I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back. Let's get into it. Alright, we are going to start off with a little weekend warm-up, a little bit of what we need to know going into Spa, some of the information, some of the stuff that the teams have released in order for us to be set up to know what is important that is taking place in Spa this last weekend. Alright, so Spa is located in the lovely Belgium countryside, surrounded by trees. It is located in the Ardennes forest. The track is popular for its ever-changing and unpredictable weather conditions, as well as its famous corner series of Eau Rouge and Radion. Here's everything that we're going to need to know for the World Endurance Championship and Spa before we get into the race details themselves. Hypercar drivers shift gears 44 times, reaching a top speed range of 315 kilometers per hour and traveling with a fully open throttle for 58% of this lap, according to the FIA World Endurance Championship webpage. 12 seasons into WEC, Spa had 28 different countries represented by 106 drivers and 14 manufacturers sharing the track on this weekend. 5 teams in Hypercar are operating two-man teams due to race clashes the same weekend, including Hertz team Jota, who will be racing with Will Stevens and Callum Ilott, the number 93 Peugeot Total Energies with Mikel Jensen and Nico Muller, and the number 94 Peugeot Total Energy, who was racing with Paul di Resta and Loïc Duval. The Cadillac Racing Team also has 2 drivers in Earl Bamber and Alex Lynn, and Proton Competition, who is racing Neil Jani and Julian Andlauer. Lamborghini's Iron Lynx lineup will see a driver swap for the race, as Edoardo Murata is replaced by Italy's Andrea Caldarelli. The standings in Hypercar for the manufacturers are as follows. We have Porsche leading the group, Toyota following, with Ferrari behind them, BMW behind them, and finally Alpine. With Toyota having won the last 7 World Endurance Championship races in Spa, all eyes will be on the Gazoo Racing team to see if they can get the job done and take home some major points for the championship. We're going to go ahead and jump into the race now. We're going to talk about race results and see if the Toyota team was able to topple the German manufacturer of Porsche at the top of the standings. Let's talk about the race now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the Spa, Belgium, WEC 6-hour race is absolutely nothing to look past. It is all of what you would expect from racing combined together. We had a red flag, we had cautions, we had crashes, we had action on track, we had leader changes in both classes. It was absolutely fantastic. I've got some bullet points. We're going to run down them real quick, but if you have not watched this race, I absolutely recommend that you do put it on. Just put it on in the background. Have the volume up loud enough so when the announcer starts yelling, you can run over and be like, what happened? Well, I wasn't watching, and then rewind, 10 minutes or so, whatever. Rewatch the race that way. However, we have the number 5 Porsche leading out from the number 2 Cadillac. They held their own for a lot of this race. The 51 Ferrari passes the 83 Ferrari for 8th place through Eau Rouge and Radion. Going down through lap 1, we see a lot of action in Eau Rouge and Radion throughout the course of this race. The 99 Proton Porsche passes the number 2 Cadillac shortly on for P2. We have the 6 Porsche, the 51 Ferrari, and the 53 Ferrari all passing the number 2 Cadillac as they battle through traffic a little bit into the race. The 99 Proton Porsche passes the 5 Porsche for the lead. We have the 51 Ferrari passing the 6 Porsche for the last spot on the podium for P3. The 46 BMW in GT3 tangles with the 38 Porsche hypercar to take both out of the race with some pretty substantial damage. The 50 Ferrari then proceeds to go by the 83 Ferrari itself. The 94 Peugeot GT gets by the Lamborghini. The race leader picks up a puncture through Blanchimont and shunts into the wall, losing the lead of the race, sending him to the pits. They did end up getting that car rebuilt and underway, but we did have a little bit of trouble there, and that was unfortunately the end of their competitive race. The 51 Ferrari then takes the lead of the race, with the 50 Ferrari behind having a close call with some GT3 traffic as he battles the 99 Porsche in front. The Kemmel Straight then sees a massive collision with the Cadillac hypercar and the GT3 BMW as the Cadillac tries to get around the Porsche in front and squeeze itself between the Porsche, which was pulling away, and the GT3 BMW, tried to get through that gap, ended up clipping the front of that BMW, going into the wall, taking the BMW out of the race, taking that Cadillac pretty heavily out of the race. All the bodywork was off of it. It was not a pretty incident. That, however, brought out a red flag. For the restart, almost all of the field boxed, including the hypercars and the GT3 cars. This was with an hour and 30 minutes left. The Alpine and the Porsche battle, have a very committed drive through Eau Rouge and Raidillon together, where the Porsche eventually comes out in front. Lamborghini lead in GT3 with a lap left. They're forced to pit for fuel. This allows the 2 Porsches behind to end up winning the race P1 and 2. Also in hypercar, the number 12 Porsche won the Spa race. Like I said, very exciting stuff. We're going to go ahead and talk about the world of Formula 1 up next. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and move into the world of Formula 1. A lot happened in this Miami Grand Prix, and there is a lot that could be happening moving forward into Italy. Let's go ahead and jump into it and not waste any time. Up first, in the Formula 1 community, probably the most exciting news, Red Bull now have some competition, and it is the papaya-colored McLaren car. With the Miami race that we talked about last episode came some major upgrades for the McLaren team that brought Lando Norris his first ever F1 win. I want to take a look into the development of the British racing team and what exactly they brought to Florida and how exactly they got their success. According to the official submission to the FIA, almost no external aerodynamic surfaces on Lando Norris's McLaren were left untouched. Oscar Piastri, however, had only about 50% of the development attached to his McLaren. Hopefully seeing him with the full package this upcoming week in Imola. Drag reduction had been a concern for the team from the start of the season. However, this upgrade was clearly for one benefit: pure downforce. Finding the balance between drag and downforce is crucial. Having a lot of downforce via a big rear wing produces a lot of dirty downforce, meaning a lot of speed sacrifice down main straights when the car gets to stretch its legs. It's a lot draggier to have a barn door back there, but it will indeed push you down into the corners and give you more grip coming through those low speed corners. However, that sacrifice is constantly something that F1 teams are battling and trying to find the balance on. The edge of how much downforce can we produce, but how much time do we lose as a result of producing that downforce. McLaren brought more clean downforce to be quicker through corners, which allowed them to reduce the wing angles and let them be quicker down the straights. Clean downforce comes in the form of the developments as far as the R&D changes to the actual body of the car rather than changing the wing positioning and angles. The way that McLaren achieved their clean downforce we will talk about in a minute. Ted Kravitz explained it as an entirely new front wing with a new front corner, new front suspension geometry, and a new front brake duct. This is all about getting the front of the McLaren to work better in low-speed corners. As McLaren team boss Andrea Stella explained, the focus of its efforts was to bring efficient downforce that did not add drag, which then allowed them to trim things off elsewhere. The updated floor and side pods of the McLaren are cited as the main components that allowed the Woking team to reduce the wing angles and increase the downforce and speed of that car. Everything updated includes the front wing, front suspension, front corner, front body, side pod inlet, the coke/engine cover, cooling loops, rear suspension, rear corner, and the beam wing. All of those things are things that you cannot adjust during a race weekend. They are things that take development that you have to get cleared as an aerodynamic package, and that is how you bring clean downforce to a race car instead of adding the dirty airforce. Why do I keep saying that? The dirty downforce of increasing front wing and increasing rear wing drag or size. Ferrari, however, are also bringing their own set of upgrades. As I've said many times, I think the season will be to upgrades. We have ours coming very soon, and that will define a little bit of the rest of the season for us, states Charles Leclerc. So we've got to work hard, and hopefully these upgrades will be as good as theirs and will help us to do significant steps forward, Charles Leclerc shared before racing in Miami. As good as theirs, what he means by that is as good as McLaren's, as good as that papaya car upgrade was. The stakes are especially high following Ferrari's mixed results at the Miami Grand Prix. While Leclerc managed a commendable third place, his teammate Carlos Sainz finished just behind him in fourth, later pushed back to fifth after the penalty after the duel following Oscar Piastri during the race. The race highlighted that both the strengths and limitations of the current setup need to be addressed, with Sainz notably hindered by team strategy, possibly missing out on a higher podium finish. We'll see if Ferrari are able to bring this aero package to fruition in Imola and make a three-way constructor fight after McLaren seemed to even the field to Red Bull themselves. We're going to go ahead and move into some Formula One transfer news right now. Alright, moving into the transfer market, we have Max Verstappen. Red Bull's managing director, Oliver Mintzlaff, is upset about the comments from Toto Wolff towards driver Max Verstappen as Mercedes look to replace seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who will be departing to Ferrari at the end of this season. It is a decision that Max needs to make, but there is no team up and down the grid that wouldn't hesitate to have him in the car, Toto Wolff stated. Mintzlaff was explicit in his disapproval to Wolff's public courtship of Verstappen. I understand the pressure that Toto and perhaps other teams have had after years of being behind, but I think Toto should concentrate on his challenges. He has enough of those. Very hostile coming from the Red Bull garage. Verstappen, of course, speculated to leave Red Bull over the issues on hand legally with Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. The feud, which we have already seen drive away technical director Adrian Newey, announcing his departure from the Milton Keynes team in 2025. We will talk about Adrian Newey right now. His future is also kind of on the plate, up in jeopardy. We don't really know what he's thinking about doing, what he's thinking about going to. He personally has stated something that we will get to in a second. But first we have Jeremy Clarkson has come out about his own speculation of Adrian Newey's future. He says that some will say he will join Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari, and others reckon he'll end up with Max Verstappen at Mercedes. But there's another possibility. Late last year, Newey started working on a new sailing boat, and he's now 65 years old, so who knows? He might just decide to bugger off and spend the autumns of his years sailing around the world on that. Although Adrian Newey's future is unknown at this point in time, the article posted on Newsweek.com gives us some more speculation over possible end places for the Red Bull director. As Newey exits from Formula One, he looks forward to embracing a more relaxed lifestyle. He has expressed desire to travel, possibly exploring France in a motorhome alongside his wife Amanda and his dogs. He explained, I guess over the winter a little bit, I was considering leaving, and then the events have unfolded this year. I thought I'm in a very lucky position where I don't need to work to live. I work because I enjoy it, and I just felt that now is a good time to step back and take a bit of a break and take stock of life. This means that we could see Newey disappear from motorsports entirely if he isn't convinced by any team to stay. Do I think this is a bad thing? I do not. I think Adrian Newey has had a phenomenal impact on Formula One. He will definitely be somebody who will not be forgotten for his own technical brilliance and his ability to build cars. Do I think maybe it is time for him to retire? I think if it's something that he's going to be able to kind of back off and look back on and not regret retiring too early, I think he has found his successes in Formula One, and it is absolutely time for him to go ahead and take a step back and explore France and start sailing, and all these things that are going to make him happy. I absolutely do think it's time for that for his own personal sake, and I'm glad that he's recognizing it and not just becoming a workaholic. Finally, on the transfer market, we have the current Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz. He will end up at a top 5 team for the next season. There's no way in my mind that he doesn't, due to his current form and carrying teams and carrying Ferrari against the other teams in the title fight. We see Carlos Sainz being very, very consistent for Ferrari, even when Leclerc is sometimes unable to manage a higher position. Carlos Sainz is always in that, well, he has one race win, of course, but he's always in that P2 to P5 kind of realm, and he's just a very, very consistent driver who's bringing on consistent points. I think somebody like, actually, I guess somebody even like Aston Martin would really like to have him. Somebody like Aston Martin, somebody like McLaren, even though they have their 2 drivers locked in. Red Bull, I'm sure, would take him back. Mercedes, if they don't get Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz is a very, very good candidate for that position. So we'll just have to wait and see how that works out. We are going to go ahead and move into NASCAR now. Alright, let's move into NASCAR. We have the Goodyear 400 in Darlington. As we got underway, we are led out by Tyler Reddick, who caught a small gap from the pack early on, pulling out about 5 seconds by lap 30. However, lap 34 brought some lapped traffic that allowed Brad Keselowski, who was in second place, a bit of time to catch up, trying to pick up pace to take that lead off of Tyler Reddick. That kind of background traffic really does back up these drivers in the lead of the race. It gives them a lot of dirty air, makes it a little bit more troublesome for them to get through. Byron picks up the lead for the race after a perfect pit strategy for a short stop early on in the race. He does end up picking up the lead. However, they do have to run a very long time on those tires, almost 50 laps to the end of the first stage, and that is going to end up pushing them a little bit further back, but it did give them the lead early on in the race. Ty Gibbs takes the lead on lap 45. Gibbs got loose after that and let Larson through for the lead on lap 80. Larson ended up taking stage 1, which was 90 laps. Stage 2 is led out by Tyler Reddick and Brad Keselowski after a very close call in the pit lane. It was just about a front splitter that separated the two for position. Nemechek brings out the caution after spinning on the back straight. The caution comes back out right after the green flag is dropped to resume the race on that one because there was a little accordion effect crash. Somebody ran wide. They ran each other wide, got a little slow on the wall. Behind, came up, boom, pool shot, boom, into the guy in front of him. Just a little debacle that brought out that caution. Zane Smith wrecks on lap 164, sliding out of a corner, losing his grip, and going into that inside wall that splits the track from the pit lane. Tyler Reddick wins stage 2. Stage 3 sees a much closer restart that hasn't been common for Reddick this race. Larson wrecks from 6th place and his left tire was punctured and eventually debeaded. This led to him spinning around through a corner. We saw his tire get punctured about 3 laps earlier. The following 2 laps were about a second off of his normal pace, and finally that tire did debead, came off, gave out, sent him around, bringing out another caution. Buescher takes the lead on the restart as Keselowski and Reddick battle out front. Buescher and Reddick come together later on, going into the wall, allowing Keselowski to take the lead of the race himself. This brings out another caution. This brings out the white flag, eventually the checkered flag for the final lap of the race, where Brad Keselowski wins the Goodyear 400 for the 36th win in his career. Don't forget to leave a like. Please do not forget to subscribe. Feel free to follow me on my socials linked below. If you're listening on Spotify, a follow, a share, a rating, all of that stuff would help me out tremendously. My socials will be in the description down below if you are watching on YouTube. Come back next week as we go over race results and key moments in the motorsport world, as well as news. Until next time, don't forget to brake late and accelerate early.